Hey guys, this is Mr. Forlenza here with your flipped classroom video for week 13 vocabulary. We're not going to have a chance to go over the words this week, so hopefully you'll watch this video at home, review them with your flashcards, and then study them as we get ready for our quiz next week. Your vocab words for this week that you should have done flashcards on were manifest, consecrate, platform as in political platform, congenial, and conjecture. Let's start first with the word manifest, which I used in a couple of different contexts. The first one relates specifically to social studies, and I actually used that term of manifest destiny just like you studied in social studies. And the sentence I created was, the term manifest destiny refers to the period in U.S. history through which the white settlers began to impose settlements on Native American lands in the western part of the country. If you think about what the word manifest means, it means to appear or suddenly just come to a forefront of something. So when we talk about manifest destiny, we're referring specifically to the time period in United States history where the white settlers in the United States began to move from east to west and started to appear on the lands of Native Americans. So if you think about what the word means, it actually works well with the concept of destiny, because a lot of Americans felt like it was their destiny at the time to go forth and assume control over the entire continental United States. I also used it kind of just from a very basic literature example. We took the character Major Andre, which appears in the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and it says the ghost of Major Andre manifested itself by the tree in which he was hung. Essentially what that means there is that Major Andre often appears or comes to the tree in which he was hung according to the story. So manifest, for a definition, is once again a verb, and it means to display or show by one's acts of appearance or demonstration. And so once again, I used kind of a picture over here of manifest destiny with westward expansion, and then just this concept of manifest, basically going from coast to coast, appearing or being in, all in one place. The second word was consecrate, and I used it through, once again, a historical example and then just kind of a general example. The first one says he resolved to consecrate his life to maintaining the cause of the freedom of the church from the control of the state. And then the second example says, during the Civil War, many Southerners consecrated themselves to the cause of states' rights. A good synonym for consecrated is basically dedicating. So if you use dedicate and you just substitute it in there for consecrate, it makes sense. He resolved to dedicate his life to maintaining the cause of freedom of the church from the control of the state, and during the Civil War, many Southerners dedicated themselves to the cause of states' rights. So when you think about consecration, it basically means to dedicate or to devote to something, as we see here with these Tibetan monks in the picture over to the right. The third word was platform as it related to politics, and you'll notice that both of my examples right over here relate to this concept of politics. One is historical and then one's a little bit more modern. So my first example says Abraham Lincoln's platform on the abolition of slavery angered many people in the United States during his administration. And the second example says nobody could have sold the platform the Republican Party was offering in 2012. In both examples, the platform refers to the ideas or policies either of an individual such as Abraham Lincoln or a political party such as the Republicans. So when you look at the definition, a platform is a noun meaning the declared policy of a political party, group, or politician. And the best way to think about it is just to think about politics. I use the elephant representing the Republican Party over here to the left, and then you have the donkey representing the Democrats over here to the right. The fourth word is congenial, and this one actually relates really well to another word that you guys had last week called amiable, and actually used them in a sentence together. It says the amiable Ichabod was very congenial towards his pupils when their mothers were around. As we learned in the story, Ichabod was only nice to his students when their mothers were around. He was only friendly towards his students when their mothers were around. And I actually used the opposite of congenial in our second example. It says the ghost, Old Green Eyes, is not considered congenial as he is known to terrorize visitors at Chickamauga. Terrorize and congenial are antonyms, and so if Old Green Eyes is terrorizing visitors, it basically means that he is not congenial. So I used Ichabod with a smug little smile on his face over here to the right to show that congenial is pleasant, friendly, and amiable are all good synonyms to remember the word congenial. And once again, it's an adjective. Our final word here was conjecture. And this can be used either as a verb in my first example or as a noun in the second example. But they basically have the same type of meaning. It just means to question or to ask questions. So the first example says, I've made various conjectures on how the situation would turn out. Essentially, I'm using it as a verb there to show I've made many guesses or I've made many hypotheses. The second example is, this view rests almost entirely on conjecture. There is no good evidence to show that there is a connection between the two events. Basically, it means a hypothesis or a guess that's going on there. So our little guy right over here, Conjecture Man, says, I use my powers to make clever guesses based on things I notice and what I already knew. So you will look again, and it's basically you're making a guess. It's a little bit less than a hypothesis now thinking about it, because hypothesis, when you make a hypothesis, you at least have a little bit more concrete evidence to make that hypothesis. Conjecture is basically a little bit more guesswork. Hope this video was helpful, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me in class. Thank you.